The Sikha we're learning this week is the Sikha of Shabbos Parshas Devorim, Shabbos Chazoin. It was Tisha B'Av Nidcha, and the Sikha is joined together with the Sikha of Sunday, Asiri B'Av, the 10th day of Av before Ma'ariv, as well as Monday, the 11th of Av after Ma'ariv of Tav Shin Nun Aleph. The Sikha can be found in Sefer HaSichas Tav Shin Nun Aleph Chelek Beis, page 721. As pointed out in the footnote right in the beginning of the Sikha, that on Sunday afternoon, the day of the fast, at 8:35 in the evening, towards evening, the Rebbe came into the shul and said a Sikha. Afterwards, the Rebbe gave everyone $1 to give it to tzedakah, or $1 instead of it to tzedakah, plus some more. Then they davened Ma'ariv, and after davening, the Rebbe started the Hakafas Nigun of his father, Rebbe Levi Yitzchak. So it was something very, very unique and very special that year. The Rebbe starts off the Sikha saying that these days, especially coming from Shabbos Tisha B'Av Nidcha, are days that are very opportune and very auspicious for the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu. And the Rebbe explains, in addition to the fact that it's a Iker in the Yiddish Amunah and Imamin that we await Mashiach's coming every single day, meaning that every single day we're expecting Mashiach to come that day, and generally this time, as spoken many times recently, that according to all of the Simonei HaGeula, Mashiach is about to come. Hinei zeh Mashiach ba, take it from Yad Mamish. And the fact that Mashiach didn't come yet is completely not understood. All of this, the connection to Mashiach, is even more emphasized in the days of Chodesh Av. As it says in the Medrash, that Allah Aryeh b'mazal Aryeh, that the Aryeh, the lion, has come up, referring to Nebuchadnezzar, which is called an Aryeh. He came up in the Mazal Aryeh in the 5th month, in the month of Av, and he destroyed the Ariel, the Beis HaMikdash, which is also referred to as a lion. All of this was in order that Yavoy Aryeh, that the Eibush, that it's called the Aryeh, should come in the Mazal Aryeh. As we know that V'afachti Evlam L'Sosoin, that the Eibush is going to transform all the things of mourning into joy and happiness, and is going to rebuild the Beis HaMikdash, the Ariel. In other words, that in Chodesh Av there will be the building of the third Beis HaMikdash, the Beis HaMikdash that the Eibush himself makes. And furthermore, this was the whole point, this was the whole condition of why there was a Churban in this month, was Almanas, in order to have the rebuilding of the Beis HaMikdash in this month. The Rebbe says the connection to the Geula is also seen in the name of the month, as it's called Al Pi Minig Yisrael, which is Torah. So the month is called Menachem Av. That means even before we say the word Av, which is the name as it appears in Torah, we first say Menachem, which is the comfort of the Geula. Which this all shows that in this month, the comfort of the Geula, the Menachem, will come, the comfort for all the matters of Av. That is by transforming the negative things of the descent of the month of Av to the greatest ascent, to the Menachem, which, as we said before, this is that the Aryeh will come, that the Eibishter will come in the Mazal Aryeh, and will rebuild the Ariel, the Beis HaMikdash. It was only for this purpose that there was any Yerida, that there was any descent at all. And as the Rebbe points out in footnote number 10 over here as well, in regards to the name Menachem Av, that we know that this is also the name of Mashiach, as will still be discussed more in the Sikha itself. Says the Rebbe in Seif Beis, within Chodesh Menachem Av itself, this connection to Mashiach is even stronger on the day of Tisha B'Av, both as far as the general idea of the day, and also the specific setup this year that it falls out on Shabbos. So first, regarding the day itself, the Chazal tell us that on Tisha B'Av, on the very day that the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, Melech HaMashiach was born. And this idea, the connection of Mashiach, the birth of Mashiach on Tisha B'Av, is something that's renewed every single Tisha B'Av. And since we know that in the Yom Holedus, on the birthday of a person, his mazel is especially strong, so what comes out is that on Tisha B'Av, it's especially strong, the mazel of Mashiach Tzidkenu, and it's a special opportune time for the Geula Ha'amitis V'Ashlema. This idea that Mashiach is born on Tisha B'Av, and that Mazalei Goiver is also Negei in Halacha L'Maisa, in practical Halacha, as it says in Kisvei Arizal, that the reason why we say the Tefillah of Nachem, that is Psukim of comfort, on Tisha B'Av by Mincha is because by Mincha of Tisha B'Av, that's when Mashiach, who was called Menachem, was born. Says the Rebbe, via Shloimar, we could say that when Tisha B'Av falls out on Shabbos like this year, and the fast and the Nachim is all pushed off to Sunday, so then what's pushed off? Only the negative things are pushed off. The fast, the mourning, all of the negative things are pushed off from Tisha B'Av, from the Shabbos Tisha B'Av. But the positive things, that is, that on this day, the Savior of the Yidden Mashiach was born, that is not pushed off at all, and doesn't even become weakened, Chas v'Shalom, through Shabbos. And on the contrary, all of the good inyanim are even stronger and more revealed on Shabbos. The reason for this, says the Rebbe, is because we know that all things of the world, including even the greatest inyanim in the spiritual worlds, like the Malachim and the Spheros, etc., were all created, B'Shvil Yisrael, all created for the sake of the Yidden and for the sake of Torah. In fact, we know that Yidden, the thought of for the creating the Yidden, comes even before Torah. The Torah is given for the Yidden. As in Torah itself, it says, Tzavez b'nei Yisrael, Daber el b'nei Yisrael, it's all about the Yidden. And therefore it is impossible that anything in the world, even time itself, which is dependent on the cycle of the sun, the moon, etc., since everything was created for the Yidden, it's impossible that anything, even time itself, should be able to hinder or even weaken, Chas v'Shalom, the Kedusha that needs to come down for the Yidden, including in this context something as important as the birth and the strengthening of the Mazel of Mashiach on Tisha B'Av. It's impossible that just because Tisha B'Av falls out on Shabbos, we should be missing out and losing out on this important inyan of the Gilui of Mashiach. Especially when we speak about something as important as Shabbos, that Tisha B'Av falls out on Shabbos, since we know that Yidden themselves are considered the Ben Zug, the match or the pair for Shabbos. Both Shabbos and Bnei Yisrael are higher and removed from all matters of the world. So the Medrash tells us that every single day of the week has another match, another pair, another day of the week that pairs up with it. The one that's out of this group, besides for the 6 days of the week, which are even and an even amount, and each day has its own pair, there's the day of Shabbos, which is removed from all of them, and the Eibishter says the Yidden are your match. And therefore, of course, it would be impossible that Shabbos should take away something so important as Mashiach from the Yidden. Especially that Shabbos itself is connected with the Gilui of the Geula. As we say in the Shir Shal Yom on Shabbos, Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbos, the Gemara says this means, this is a song for the great big Shabbos of La'asid Lavoi, the day of Yom Shekulei Shabbos U'Menucha L'Chayei Ha'olamim, and every single Shabbos is similar or a miniature of the Geula. And therefore, of course, it's impossible to say that just because Tisha B'Av fell out on Shabbos, it should Chas v'Shalom push away something so important and so great as the birth of Mashiach Tzidkenu on Tisha B'Av. Rather, we say on the contrary, Shabbos pushes off all the negative things of Tisha B'Av, the fasting and the pain, etc., all the things that are opposite of the Geula. And it reveals and strengthens even more the matters of the Geula on Tisha B'Av, and that is the birth of Mashiach on this day. Especially, says the Rebbe, that the Shabbos of Tisha B'Av is Shabbos Chazoin, which means a vision and a sight. As we know that on this Shabbos, every single Yid is shown, the Beis HaMikdash, the La'asid, from afar, as it's known the Torah regarding this. Especially that it's explained with a mashal of a garment, of a father that had a precious child, and he made him a precious garment, and every once in a while he shows it to him. Even though in the Nimshal really we're speaking about a Beis HaMikdash, a house, and yet in the mashal we give a mashal of a father making a precious garment for a child. And that is, the Rebbe explains, because even though a garment and a house, the Beis HaMikdash, are both called in the language of Chassidus a makif, they both surround the person, but a levush is closer to the person than a house. Or like we have in the Beis HaMikdash, we also have the Bigdei Kahuna in the Beis HaMikdash. And so a levush is closer to the person, which represents that this gilui of the Beis HaMikdash is closer to the person. So therefore it's understood that if every Shabbos is connected to the Geula, especially on a Shabbos Chazoin when we're shown the Beis HaMikdash, that the gilui of Moshiach Shal Yisrael, of the Savior of the Yidden, in this sort of Shabbos, is much greater and much stronger. And as it is also emphasized in the ending of the Haftarah of Shabbos Chazoin, Tzion b'mishpat tipada v'shaveh b'tzdaka, a pasuk referring, of course, to the Geula. Says the Rebbe in Seif Gimel, this advantage of Shabbos Tisha B'Av is even more emphasized by the food and drink, by the meals and the feasts that we have on this day. We have the mitzvah of Oinig Shabbos, to have specific delight through eating and drinking. As it says in Halacha, dogim gdoilim, big fish, basar v'yayin, meat and wine. In fact, even the Seudah Shlishis, the third meal of Shabbos, on Tisha B'Av that falls out on Shabbos, which is the Seudah HaMafsekes, the Halacha is that one is able to eat meat and drink wine by the Seudah HaMafsekes and have on his table even a feast as great as Shlomo HaMelech while he was king. What do we see from this? That when the fast falls out on Shabbos, when Tisha B'Av falls out on Shabbos, it's not only about not having the fast and about staying away from food and drink, but rather the main thing is that we actually have exactly the opposite, the simcha and the tainug, the joy and the pleasure of eating fatty meat and drinking aged wine. Says the Rebbe via Shloimar, that when Tisha B'Av falls out on Shabbos, we actually have to add even more than a regular Shabbos, so that there shouldn't even be a kasalka daitach, there shouldn't even be a thought that it's in any way connected to a fast. The Rebbe says the explanation for all of this is, as mentioned a number of times, that really the whole idea of a fast, b'pnimiyus, deep down inside, is really about a good inyan. It's a yom rotzon la'Hashem. It's a day that's especially pleasing to Hashem. And the inner reason for the fast is that it should be revealed what they're really all about, the good inside of them, that they should be transformed for days of Yom Tov, Sasin, and Simcha, as will be revealed by the Geula HaMitis V'Ashleima. This inner idea of a fast is revealed when the fast falls out on Shabbos, which then what's being pushed off is only the fast, but not the good aspect of it, not the fact that it's a desirable day to Hashem. And on the contrary, since the whole idea of Shabbos itself is a Yom Rotzon, a special, desirable day to Hashem, as we say in davening, Chemdas Yomim Oisei Karasa, it's a mitzvah to have pleasure and delight on Shabbos, and it's a day connected to the Geula. So then, of course, the Eis Rotzon aspect of the Tainis is much stronger and much greater, and therefore, the fact that the Tainis is a Yom Tif and a Yom Sosin V'Simcha is seen on the Shabbos, similar to the way it's going to be when Mashiach comes. And in fact, eventually, of course, the fast being pushed off completely when Mashiach comes. The koyach for this is already given in a time when the fast falls out on Shabbos, as this is emphasized specifically when Tisha B'Av falls out on Shabbos. As the Gemara says, that there was a case when Tisha B'Av fell out on Shabbos, and Rebbe was of the opinion, and he said, Hoyil v'nitcha, once it's pushed off, it should be pushed off completely. Says the Rebbe via Shloimah that this is even more emphasized in the Seudah of Tisha B'Av, which falls out on Shabbos. Because Tisha B'Av, as we said, we have the Gilui, the revelation of the birth of Mashiach, especially la'achrei chatzos hayom, after midday in the time of Tfilas Mincha, the time when Mashiach is born, especially by the Seudah HaMafsekes, the Seudah Shlishis of Shabbos, because this third Seudah of every Shabbos is connected with the Seudah of La'asid Lavoi, the Levyasa, the Sheir Bar, and the Yayin HaMeshumor, which is all going to be a Gashmi is the Seudah. So especially the Seudah Shlishis, the Seudah Mafsekes of Shabbos Tisha B'Av, when Mashiach is born, so that's of course connected with Mashiach. Says the Rebbe in Seif Dalet, via Shloimah we could say even more than this. When Tisha B'Av falls out on Shabbos, and the fast is pushed off to the 10th of Av, so we have similar to the advantage of what happens by Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the 10th of Tishrei, and Erev Yom Kippur is the 9th of Tishrei. Chazal tell us, one who eats and drinks on the 9th day of Tishrei, the Pasuk considers it as if he fasted both the 9th and the 10th. What's the advantage of that, and how does that tie in with Tisha B'Av? Says the Rebbe will understand this by first explaining generally the connection between Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur. And the Rebbe explains a number of points. First of all, the Rebbe says all the fasts, which are Midrabanon, have a connection to Yom Kippur, which is Minat Torah, as it's known, that the mitzvahs that are midrabanon are in some way similar to their counterparts, to the mitzvahs midoraisa, which they are coming from. Because every mitzvah midrabanon in some way has a shaykhus to a mitzvah midoraisa. So the fasts are all connected to Yom Kippur. Out of the fasts itself, Tisha B'Av is the most similar to Yom Kippur. As that Ein Bein Tisha B'Av L'Yom HaKippurim, there are no differences between Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur besides for what it enumerates. In other words, generally they are the same. So for example, we know that Tisha B'Av, the night, is just like the day. And also Bein HaShmosha is already the time after Shkia is already Asur to eat and drink and everything else, just like Yom Kippur. So we see immediately that there's a connection between Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur. Further, the Rebbe says, right after Tisha B'Av, we have a big Yom Tov that comes soon after that, Chamisha Asar B'Av, which comes in a sense to correct the things of Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av, the Yidden were dying in the Midbar. The Gzeira of the Yidden dying came on Tisha B'Av, and the Yidden were dying on the Midbar. That was fixed up. They stopped dying on the 15th day of Av. Now we know that the 15th day of Av, which is the correction, so to speak, for Tisha B'Av, is very much, again, connected to Yom Kippur. As the Gemara says, there was no greater Yom Tovim for the Yidden like Chamisha Asar B'Av and Yom Kippur. Says the Rebbe, B'pnimi Yisoyin Yonim, the connection between Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur, that is, that the great advantage of Tisha B'Av, that it's the birth of Mashiach. In the time of Golus, this is concealed. When do the revelations of the thing of Tisha B'Av happen? On Chamisha Asar B'Av, when we have the full moon, and there's the Aliyah, the ascent, and the Shleimus of the moon, which represents a Sphira of Malchus and the level of David Malka Mashiach, as said in Kiddush Levana. So after we had the great Yerida, the great descent and the concealment in Tisha B'Av in the time of Golus, which we said before is all on condition, and it's all for the purpose that Yavo Yaryeh v'Mazel Aryeh v'Yivna Ariel. So all of the inyanim of Tisha B'Av are nizgala on Chamisha Asar B'Av. Similar, this idea that we just said about the inyan of Mashiach. So in a similar way we have on Shabbos of Tisha B'Av, when Begilui we only have the good aspects of Tisha B'Av, the birth of Mashiach on Tisha B'Av, and therefore the Yom Tov that comes out right afterwards, that's Megala, that reveals the Inyanim of Tisha B'Av. What do we say about it? There's no greater Yom Tovim like the 15th day of Av, because of the great ascent that happens on Chamisha Asar B'Av, which then the Gili of La'asid, which has no interruption, is shining. The Gili, which is connected with the building of the Beis HaMikdash. And this is why we connect Chamisha Asar B'Av with Yom Kippur, that they're similar, great Yom Tov, because on the one special day of the year, Yom Kippur, which is connected to the Gilui of Yechidah. Now we know Mashiach is the general Yechidah of all of the Yidden. Here too there's the Aliyah of the level of Malchus into the deepest levels of Keser, which is again similar to the way things are going to be when Mashiach comes, which is also connected with the building of the Beis HaMikdash. So the Rebbe is explaining that there's a strong connection between Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur. Furthermore, the Rebbe says, we know that there are 7 weeks of comfort, of special haftodas that are read between Tisha B'Av and Rosh Hashanah. The Shleimus of Rosh Hashanah is on Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is also called Rosh Hashanah in a pneumistic level. Yom Kippur, as we know, is called the day of the marriage, the Matan Torah, because of the second set of luchos, between the Eibishter and marriage between the Eibishter and the Yidden. Yom Kippur is the ending of the last set of 40 days that Moshe Rabbeinu was on the mountain, that started on Rosh Chodesh Elul, which came after the middle set of 40 days, which went from Shiva Asar B'Tammuz until Rosh Chodesh Elul, including, of course, the day of Tisha B'Av and Chamisha Asar B'Av within those 40 days. And based on what we said before, that on Shabbos Tisha B'Av is revealed the inner good and the great advantages of Tisha B'Av, similar to the fact that these days will be transformed into Yomim Tovim by the Gula Amitis Vashleima. So what comes out from this is that on Tisha B'Av itself we have already similar to the Gilui of Yom Kippur. It is only that in the time of Golus, this is all in a concealed way, in those years that Tisha B'Av falls out during the week. So what we've been explaining over here is the connection in a number of ways between Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur. Says the Rebbe in Sif, hey, based on the connection of Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur, we can now say that which it says regarding Yom Kippur, that one who eats and drinks on the 9th day, it's counted as if he fasted on the 9th and 10th of Tishrei. In a similar way we have this year, when Tisha B'Av is Shabbos, which then we have this idea that we're eating on the 9th day of Av, because of the mitzvah of Oynik Shabbos, And as we said before, in fact, we should even eat extra. The Rebbe says this is similar, like on the 9th day of Tishrei, when we are told we have to eat the amount for 2 days, for Erev Yom Kippur and Yom Kippur. Which in this way, just like by Yom Kippur, we say, Maila Olav HaKosov, the Pasuk counts it. Or, in a sense, the Pasuk, literally, Maila means the Pasuk elevates the Yid, causes an Aliyah, and considers it. Ki'ilu is anachiv asiri, as if he fasted on the 9th and the 10th. That is, that he has the Maila by eating and drinking on the 9th day, as if he fasted. And this is similar to the time of Olam Haba, when there will be no food and no drink. And this is as if he fasted on both days, the 9th and the 10th are both considered as if he fasted because of his eating and drinking. Furthermore, says the Rebbe, since we're awaiting Mashiach's coming every day, and including, as we said before, the pshat that he's mamish going to come today, on this very day, on Shabbos Tisha B'Av, of Heiti Nosei, and then the fast will be pushed off completely, and Tisha B'Av will be a great Yom Tov. So it's understood that Maila Olav HaKosov, that the pasuk counts it as if he ate by a person eating and drinking on the 9th, which basically means through our avodah on this Tisha B'Av will express itself not by fasting on the 9th and the 10th, but rather, if Mashiach will come immediately, we'll have eating and drinking also on the 10th of Av. And within the eating and drinking itself, this itself will be on the highest level. Especially that simply will be connected with the dedication of the third Beis HaMikdash, which will come down immediately. This is similar to, or even greater than, like when the Yidden ate and drank on Yom Kippur by the Chanukah's Bayis Rishon, and that was considered a schus for them. But by when Mashiach comes, it's going to be so much more than that, because by when Mashiach comes, the fast of Tisha B'Av will become nullified completely. Whereas the fast of Yom Kippur that was pushed off by the dedication of the first Beis HaMikdash was, of course, only a temporary thing that they were able not to fast. Says the Rebbe Yosef, and to add that in the Kviyus of this year, when we have the eating and drinking on the 9th, so the 10th of Av comes out on a Sunday, on Yom Echad. The first day of the week is similar to and symbolizes the first day of Ma'aseh Bereishis, of the creation of the world, when the Eibishter was the one and only in the world. And if Mashiach comes immediately, then the following day, Sunday, the 10th of Av, then will Taka shine in the most revealed way, like in the beginning of creation, the unity of Hashem. This is similar to Yom Kippur, the Achaz Bashana, the 10th day of Tishrei, which is also, as we said before, the day when the Yechidah shines, which is connected to the Yachid of above, the Eibishter himself. It will be revealed, V'hoya Hashem lemelech al kol haaretz b'yomo, yiyeh Hashem echad u'shmo echad. Says the Rebbe, this also fits with the fact that the 10th day of the month is also connected with the pasuk Asiri Yiyeh Kodesh. The 10th day is holy, and as it's explained in Chassidus based on a Zoyar, that the word Kodesh is a word for itself that means it's not about something being holy, it's holiness itself. In other words, it's a level of Kedusha that's beyond anything else. Says the Rebbe in Siva, V'yesh lo Yosef, in the Kviyus of this year, Tisha B'Av falls out on Shabbos. Therefore, the beginning of the Bein Hamtzarim of the 3 weeks, the fast of Shiva Asar B'Tammuz was also Shabbos, and the fast was pushed off. So it comes out that the beginning and the end of the 3 weeks, the 3 Shabbosim, we usually are called Klosa de Puranusa, 3 weeks when there's haftoiras that discuss punishment and negativity and so on. But in this Kviyas, the beginning and the end of the 3 weeks are not with negative and Yadim Chas v'Shalom. On the contrary, it starts off and finishes with a Shabbos, Chemdas Yomim, a day that's desirable by Hashem, a day that's we're supposed to have. It's a mitzvah to have delight. And since Achakaloi B'chol Yom Sheyavoy, so therefore tomorrow there also won't be a fast, and even if Mashiach will be delayed Chas v'Shalom, it will be already a fast, so to speak, outside the 3 weeks, because that was finished already on Shabbos. Says the Rebbe, V'yesh lo yimar, that reveals even more the real point of what the 3 weeks are all about. That they correspond to the Gimel Moichin, to the 3 levels of intellect, that is Chachma, Bina, Das, of course. It's in the time of Golus, these 3 levels of intellect were hidden and concealed. But when Mashiach comes, it will be revealed completely by the Geula Amitis V'Ashlema, when we are going to conquer all 10 nations, the 10 lands. That's in addition to the first 7 which the Yidden had already, and that corresponds to the 7 midos. But we're now going to also have the 3 extra ones of Kaini, Knizi, V'Kadmoini corresponding to the 3 levels of Moichin. And on the contrary, says the Rebbe, since it comes after such a big concealment, so it's going to be in a much more powerful and greater way, like the Yisro, like the advantage of light that comes out of the dark. So the 3 weeks correspond, and the fact that it starts and finishes with the Shabbos, we'll only see the positivity of the 3 weeks. What it corresponds to is the Gili of the 3 Moichin, 3 levels of intellect, which will be Nizgalu when Mashiach comes. Says the Rebbe, we could connect this also with the Parshas HaShavua of the 3 weeks, which we read, Parshas Pinchas, Matis Masei, and Dvorim. The common denominator between these Parshas are that in all of them we speak about the division of Eretz Yisrael. In Parshas Pinchas we speak about how Eretz Yisrael is going to be divided as an inheritance for the Yidden through a goyrel, etc. In Parshas Matos we have about Gad and Reuven, Shvatim Gad and Reuven requesting how they get as a heritage on the western side of the Yarden, on the eastern side of the Yarden. In Parshas Masei, it speaks about how the Yidden are dividing, the discussion of the borders of Eretz Yisrael and how it's going to be divided by the Goyrel. In Parshas Devorim, in the beginning of the Parsha, the Yidden are being instructed to come to Har Ho'emoiri and to all the neighbors, to the land of the Knani and the Levonin, all the way to the river of Nahar Pros. Then the Pasuk goes on to say, Rei nosati lefnechem asaretz, look, I have given you the land. Come and conquer the land that Hashem has promised to your avos. And at the very end of the parsha, we have the conquering of the lands of Sichon and Og and giving it over to Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven. More specifically, in these parshas, the issue and the discussion is all about the division of all of Eretz Yisrael, meaning not only on the western side of the Yarden, but also on the eastern side of the Yarden, where Gad and Reuven took their parts. Because that is the beginning of the conquering and the dividing of the land, also of the 3 nations of Kaini, Knizi, V'Kadmoini, which are Edom, Moav, and Ammon, which are going to be the inheritance for the Yidden when Mashiach comes. Says the Rebbe via Shloimeh, we could say that in this is hinted that we have the 3 Moichin, the 3 levels of intellect, along with the 7 midos that is conquering the 7 nations. On the western side of the Yarden, we also have the 3 Moichin, which are expressed in the 3 weeks. When we read these parshas, and from there 3 weeks, we then come to the 7 weeks of Nechama that follow after Tisha B'Av. In the Avodah of the year, this is hinting to the Avodah of Machdo Eretz Yisrael, to make out of your place, to conquer your portion in the world and make it into a holy place, Eretz Yisrael, a dir lo yizbarach b'tachtoinim, and in the most perfect way, with your thought, your speech, and your action, as a preparation for the time when Eretz Yisrael will spread out to all the countries, as discussed in a previous Fabrengen. Says the Rebbe in Siv Zayin, via Shloimeh, this idea of the Gili of Mashiach on Tisha B'Av by Mincha, and how it's especially connected with the Avodah in Eretz Yisrael, is emphasized in the parsha that we read in Tfilas Mincha of Shabbos Tisha B'Av, of Shabbos Chazoin, when we read Parshas V'Eschanan. And the Rebbe explains, based on the rule that Torah is eternal, and Torah is Milashon Ha'ira, Torah is a lesson to us, so we know that all matters of Torah are eternal and need to give us everlasting lessons to Yidden in all times and in all places. If that's the case, the question arises, what is the eternal Ha'ira? From Moshe Rabbeinu davening to Hashem, V'eschanan el Hashem, to go into Eretz Yisrael, there seems to be a tefillah and a bakasha that was not fulfilled at the time. And therefore it would seem to be something of the sort of thing you say, what happened, happened. It was a story that happened in the past, but what's it relevant today? The explanation is, it's obvious that the tefillah of Moshe Rabbeinu always remains with its fullest strength and surely will also be fulfilled with a kal v'chomer from every tzaddik. If we say regarding every tzaddik that his tefillah is mukuyim, and every tzaddik we say that tzaddik goyzer, a tzaddik decrees and the Eibishter fulfills, so surely the tefillah of Moshe Rabbeinu, if even regarding the handiwork, the things that Moshe Rabbeinu made, we say that they are eternal, surely is tefillah to the Eibishter. Especially a tefillah that Moshe Rabbeinu davened 515 tefillahs as the number of V'eschanan. So if the Yidden would have been Zoich and Moshe Rabbeinu's tefillah would have been fulfilled immediately, he would have taken the Yidden into Eretz Yisrael, and he would have built a Beis HaMikdash, and it would have been an eternal Beis HaMikdash, Geula HaNitzchas, an eternal Geula, the Geula Shleim as explained in Sfarim. For various reasons, at the time Moshe Rabbeinu's tefillah was not fulfilled practically in Olam Hazeh Gashmi, because of the Gzeira that Moshe Rabbeinu needed to remain with his people, his generation in the Midbar, as will soon be explained. But since it's a tefillah of Moshe Rabbeinu, and furthermore 515 tefillahs, then surely it will be fulfilled. But it will be at a later stage, the Geula HaAmitis VaHashleima through Mashiach Tzidkenu, which we know that the Goyel Rishon, the first Redeemer, Moshe Rabbeinu, is also the Goyel Acharon, the last Redeemer. He will take all the Yidden into Eretz Yisrael in the Geula, after which there is no Golus, in the building of the third Beis HaMikdash, the eternal Beis HaMikdash. So what comes out from this is that the Tefillah of Moshe, of course, exists forever and is effective. It just wasn't at the time, rather at a later time when the eternal Geula will come, and Moshe, who is the Goyel Rishon, is also the Goyel Acharon, will take all the Yidden into Eretz Yisrael. Says the Rebbe in Sif Ches, now we can understand the eternal Hayrah for all generations. Moshe Rabbeinu starts off his tefillah by saying, Ato hachiloiso laharis es avdecha. You started showing your servant, Moshe Rabbeinu says to the Eibishter. As Rashi explains, this means that you showed me, you gave me an opening and a way, you showed me that it's up to me to daven. In other words, that even though there was a gzeira that Moshe Rabbeinu won't take the Yidden into Eretz Yisrael, Moshe Rabbeinu says to Hashem, I learned from you when you told me, Va'ato hanicholi, which literally can be translated as let go of me. Moshe Rabbeinu says, was I holding on to you? But rather, you were showing me the way that it's up to me. I could daven for the Yidden. In a similar way over here, I thought, I could daven to be able to go into Eretz Yisrael. No one could stop you, Hashem. If you want to forgive me and be mevatel your gzeira, of course you can. Because since we're speaking about going into Eretz Yisrael and bringing the Geula Shleima for all the Yidden, so even though Moshe Rabbeinu knows about the Gzeira, Moshe Rabbeinu did whatever was up to him to daven, and daven again, and once again to daven, all the way up to 515 tefillos, or as it says in the brackets, 515 could also have another pshat, that it's a tefillah that permeates all 15 times the 500 levels of Seder Hishtalshalos. To explain, that is, we know that the Gemara says that the journey from the earth to the heaven is a 500-year journey. Then each heaven itself is also a 500-year journey, and between each heaven is a 500-year journey. So multiply all of that, you have 500 times 15, the 15 is the 7 heavens, and between all the heavens plus between the earth and the heaven is 15 times 515. So this represents all the levels within Seder Ishtalshalos. So the Rebbe says Moshe Rabbeinu was davening all of these tefillos, that perhaps he'll be able to achieve that the Eibishter should be mevatel the gzeira and allow Moshe Rabbeinu to bring the Yidden into Eretz Yisrael. Furthermore, says the Rebbe, even after the Eibishter told him, Al toisav daber elayod badavar hazeh, do not continue speaking to me anymore about this, the Rebbe says it's very doubtful whether Moshe Rabbeinu, so to speak, actually obeyed. Because we have a rule, Kol ma sheyomer lecha balabayis, I say whatever the balabayis tells you to do, you have to do, unless he tells you to say, go out. If that's the case, even when the real balabayis, the Eibishter, tells Moshe Rabbeinu to say, go out, don't talk to me anymore about this, says the Rebbe, it makes sense that Moshe Rabbeinu had Mesiras Nefesh and continued davening and begging to go into Eretz Yisrael. Of course, the Rebbe adds an interesting thing in the brackets. Of course, Moshe Rabbeinu did it in a way that it shouldn't chas v'shalom harm another Yid. That's Yeshua ben Nun, since the Eibishter already promised that he's going to take the Yidden into Eretz Yisrael, so it shouldn't take away from that. Now, even if Moshe Rabbeinu was able to bring about that he should go into Eretz Yisrael, and surely he was able to bring this about, as we said before, with a kal v'chomer from every tzaddik, nevertheless, being that Moshe Rabbeinu was the true faithful shepherd, and a real Rebbe, and a real teacher of Torah to the Yidden, he wasn't prepared to go out of Golus, leaving behind his Talmidim, as the halacha is that a Talmud that goes to Golus, his Rebbe goes to Golus along with him. Rather, the shleimus of his Geula is expressed only if together with him are taken out of Golus also all of his Talmidim. And the Rebbe says again, this can be understood when looking at the opposite extreme, that we say that a Rav that goes to Golus, his yeshiva goes to Golus with him. And therefore it's understood that the tefillah of Moshe Rabbeinu to go into Eretz Yisrael of course includes that also all the Yidden in his doyer, the doyer Deya, the doyer Amidbar, should go with him into Eretz Yisrael, Begula Ashleima. So now we come to the lesson for all generations in regards to the Ispashtus of the Moshe Rabbeinu of every single generation, all the way to the Moshe of our generation. And so in regards to the Moshe that is found inside of each and every Yid, that notwithstanding all of the tefillos and bakashas that we had up until now, we need to once again daven and beg the Eibishter ad Mosai. And it's clear that this tefillah and bakasha surely will be fulfilled, and the takeoff from Yad Mamish in a way of matnas chinam, as it says on Voes Chanan. We are told that the word chanun in every place is an expression of matnas chinam, a free gift from Hashem. That means the Eibishter is giving us much more than what we deserve. Shaloi be'erech our avodah. Immediately will come the Gula Mitzvah Shleima through Mashiach Tzidkeinu, the Goyel Rishon, who is the Goyel Achron, and all the Yidden will go to Eretz Yisrael in the eternal Gula. And the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi, the eternal Beis HaMikdash, will come down, the Beis HaMikdash that is already ready and prepared up above. Says the Rebbe in Sif Tes, all of this is strengthened even more when we're standing in this very, very special shul, in this Bayis Meshulish, a house made up of three special things. It's a Beis HaKnesses, a Beis HaMedrash, and a place of Maisim Tovim and Gemilas Chasodim, especially that is the place of Kvoid Kedushas Meir V'cham Yad Munisi Dereinu, the Moshe of our generation, which this is all similar in a preparation for the third Beis HaMikdash, which is also a triple house, a place of Bayis Tefillah, a Bayis of Torah, the place of the Sanhedrin, which was by the Lishkas Hagazis, who taught Torah, and a place of Gemilus Chasodim that came about through the Akravas HaKarbonis. And within this Bayis Meshulish itself, in this triple house itself, we are right now by a Fabrengen with many tens of Yidden. As the Pasuk says, Beroivam Hadras Melech, that the king's glory comes out specifically in the multitude of people. That in addition to the fact that every single Yid is a Balabayis, is a master over all of creation, over all of Metzias, especially over his own Metzias, and his private avoid is Odom ki yakriv mikem, that he needs to do his avoid of bringing himself closer to the Eibishter. Mikem means of yourself, bringing closer to the Eibishter, and through that also bringing all of the matters of the world closer to the Eibishter, the Doimim, the Tzomeach, the Chai, the Medaber, that are all included inside of him, and inside the carbon. So all of this is even stronger when we have many, many Yidden together, that we're all standing in unity, that the Ava and the Achdus of Yidden gets rid of the cause of the Golus, and B'meila that brings about to get rid of the effect, which is the Golus, and the Takeif from Yad Mamish, the Gula comes. Especially, says the Rebbe, that in addition to that, we're also standing such a special time, the Shabbos of Tisha B'Av, at the time of Mincha, when there's this extra strengthening of the birth of Mashiach Tzidkeinu and the Mazel of Mashiach Tzidkeinu, and in addition to that, we're in the year of Tavshin and Aleph, the Rosh Hashanah Hoyetesh Tia Shnas Neflois Arenu, all the way to the Neflois, to the wonders of the Gula Mitzvah Shleima, regarding which it says Kimei Tzeis Chomei Eretz Mitzrayim Arenu Neflois. So from all of this we understand that this time and this place is the most opportune time for the coming of Mashiach Tzidkeinu, and simply that a Yid believes Be'amunah Shleima, the Mashiach Tzidkeinu, as a Melech and Beis David, the king from the household of David, that learns Torah, that is involved in mitzvahs, and as Mashiach Vadai, by doing and being successful, building the Beis HaMikdash in its place and gathering all of the dispersed of the Yidden, comes in right now into this shul, and comes and redeems us, taking us up right to Eretz Yisrael, to our holy land, taking each and every Yid together with all Yidden to Eretz HaKodesh, to Yerushalayim HaKodesh, to Har HaKodesh, and to Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi. And I said before that immediately, mamish, on this very moment, on Shabbos Tisha B'Av of Heiti Nosei, so that in this way, the 10th day of Menachem, of Asiri Kodesh, will already be Kodesh, will already be transformed into a day of Yom Tov and Sasan V'Simcha. Says the Rebbe, V'alach Kama V'Kama, this is especially so in regards to the 11th day of Menachemov, which is connected to a pasuk in our parsha, which says Achad Osor Yoim Chorev, 11-day journey from Chorev. Now Chorev is Har Sinai, the idea of Matan Torah. What is the idea of Achad Osor? Achad Osor is the level of Keser and Pnimius HaKeser that is referring to the Torah, the way it's at its highest root, higher than the 10 spheres. But at the same time, it comes down into the 10 spheres, and that's why it's called altogether the number 11, a journey of 11 days. In Avodas Adam, this is, you have the Torah, and then you have what comes before the Torah, the bracha that's made on the Torah. Asher Nasan Lanu es Torah, that we're emphasizing that is the Eibishter's Torah, the Eibishter's special treasure. And in fact, the Eibishter and the Torah are one. And that itself comes and expresses itself in the Torah that the Yid learns with his 10 koiches hanefesh. And that's what the number 11 represents. Again, the Rebbe is going from the 10th day of Av into the 11th day and explaining that the 11th shows on this Gili Elikus of the Eibishter, the way he's higher than the 10 spheres in Torah and is shining into Torah. And so too in the 11th day of every month, and especially in the Chodesh Menachem Av, which as we said before is connected to the Gula and to the Gili of Torah Chadashim Iti Teitzei. This is the Shleimus of this aspect of Achadasar Yom Chodesh. This level of Achadasar within Torah Chadashah that comes from the essence of Hashem, and in a way of Teitzei, that means it comes from this highest level, but then comes out and reveals itself also into all of the lower levels. Especially, says the Rebbe, that we have the Gula in the following days. So coming from, again, Shabbos is Tisha B'Av, then you have Sunday, which is the 10th day of Av. So then you have Monday. And the Rebbe explains now the connection of these days of the week to the union of Gula. The Rebbe says, so the second day of the week is double the Vayi Erev Vayi Voiker. We have twice already Vayi Erev Vayi Voiker. That means you have Sunday, the evening in the morning, and then you have Monday, the second day of creation, twice. Then you have Yom Shlishi, which is connected to double Ki Toiv we have on the third day, Kiflayim L'Sushia, and Torah is called with this name Sushia, which generally the idea of double is all connected to the Gula. Then the Rebbe says we come to Wednesday, which Wednesday is considered the match. We mentioned earlier in the Sikha that every day has its pair, so we have Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday are matched up with Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So Wednesday is the match of Sunday, and Thursday is the match of Monday, and Friday is the match of Tuesday. So each day is connected. First of all, the first 3 days, as the Rebbe just explained, is in some way connected to the idea of Geula and Koifel and double. And then we have each other day of the week, which is connected to those first few days of the week. Especially on this coming Friday, says the Rebbe, which has its own unique special union, that it's Chamisha Asar B'Av, the day that the month, the moon, is complete. And the Yidden, as we know, are compared and count according to the moon, and they are going to be renewed like the moon. And therefore, what the Rebbe was saying over here in this last few paragraphs of the Sikha is that each one of these days are especially closely connected to the Gula. Says the Rebbe in Siyaf Yud, even though ani mamin that Hinei Zeh Mashiach bo on this very day mamash, nevertheless, the Torah instructs a Yid that he needs to always do his avodah properly and b'shleimus according to the current situation, including making the proper hachonos and big hachonos to the matters of kedusha that he needs to do tomorrow and the day after and in the future. And as it's customary by these farbrengens and similar ones, that we accept hachlotis toivis to add in all matters of Torah and mitzvahs and in spreading Torah and Yiddishkeit, spreading chassidus to the outside. And it is customary to always preface this by adding and saying before taking the Achlotas Toivus, if Chas v'Sholem Mashiach will be delayed, because we are waiting that Mashiach will come today mamash. And therefore we clarify that these Achlotas Toivos that are connected with the Avoid in the time of Golus is if Chas v'Sholem Mashiach will be delayed. Now the truth of the matter is that even after Mashiach will come, of course, we'll have the continuation of the Torah and the Avoid and the Achlotas Toivos of the time of Golus. As it's known what the Chazal say. Now, literally, this pasuk, this Maimon Chazal is referring to Gan Eden, but the Rebbe is going to apply this also to the Gula. So it says, "Ashrei mishabal lakan v'talmudei biyadei." Fortunate is the one that came with his learning. That is, that the achana and the keli for the giluyim and the avodah of Gan Eden, and as similar with the Gula, is all through your avodah, your Talmud, what you have learned b'zman hazeh. Most of the zman hazeh is all connected to the time of Golus. Davka, through learning Torah and doing your avodah b'zman hazeh, you take that along with you to Gan Eden, and so too Las and Lavoi. Even though, of course, Gan Eden and the Gula are the opposite of Golus, yet we take all of our avodah from the Golus with us. And similarly, regarding the general avodah b'zman hazeh, that we know that tachlis hashleimus hazeh, that all of the great things that are going to happen by Yimos HaMashiach and Tchias HaMeisim are all dependent on our avodah that we do in the time of Golus. In fact, we know even the word Geula itself is made up of the word goyla by adding the aleph, the alufay shalolim, adding the eibishter lakus into the golus. That is, we're taking all of the inyanim of golus and we're elevating them to a state of gula. Says the Rebbe b'negei l'poil practical achlotis toivois in connection to these days. So first of all, the Rebbe speaks about in connection to the ending of the Haftorah of Shabbos Chazoin, which says Tzion b'mishpat yipada v'shaveh b'tzedakah. Now mishpat refers to Torah, and tzedakah refers to all of the mitzvahs which are included in tzedakah. So we need to add in learning Torah and fulfillment of mitzvahs. And especially, says the Rebbe, in the mitzvah of tzedakah, starting from this Shabbos itself in a permissible way, and especially on Motzei Shabbos, and on Sunday, and on Motzei Sunday, and so too in the following days. In fact, right over here in the Ha'ara, it says that the Rebbe actually himself gave out dollars to give out to tzedakah, to people that they should give to tzedakah. The Rebbe gave on Motzei Shabbos, that is the night going into the 10th of Av. After Eicha, the Rebbe gave out dollars. So too on the 10th day of Av, on Sunday, after Mincha. And then a third time after the Sikha that the Rebbe said before Ma'ariv, the Rebbe gave a third time dollars. So the Rebbe himself was giving dollars, encouraging the giving of tzedakah. Then there is also the adding in the union of Torah in Mishpat. So the Rebbe says, in continuation to that which was discussed in the previous Fabrengen, so Kan HaMokim, here is the place to once again point out that if Chas v'Sholem Mashiach will be delayed, we should continue on with greater chayis and with greater strength, and every day Yubeinecha Chadashim, to make siyumim on the Masechtas Hashas, on the idea of Mishpat throughout the 9 days, including on this very day of Shabbos Kodesh itself, to connect the siyum on Shabbos with the Suda, and afterwards also on Motzei Shabbos, and on Sunday Asiri Bov, in the permissible way to make siyumim then as well, and Alachas Kama V'Kama on Sunday night. And since these days, the days after Tisha B'Av, all the way to Chamisha Asar B'Av, are all a continuation to Tisha B'Av, so if Chas v'Sholem Mashiach will be delayed in these coming days, then the suggestion that Rebbe is making is that Siyumim should be continued to be made also in the following days, all the way till Chamisha Asar B'Av, including Chamisha Asar B'Av, and to connect the Siyum, which is Mishpat, the idea of Torah, also with giving of Tzedakah, and where appropriate, also to connect the Siyum with a Yom Tov Rabbanon, meaning to make a Su'udah and a Fabrengen. Says the Rebbe, we should publicize this in every single place wherever it's possible, both in the places that have done this in the past. They should continue with extra chayis and chizuk and strength, and especially in those places where this idea didn't reach yet, that it should reach there. We should make siyumim there as well, and to continue in mishpat and in tzedakah generally. Says the Rebbe in Seif Yud Aleph, in connection to Chamisha Asar B'Av, this coming Friday, Haba Aleinu L'Toiva, it's kedai to make in each and every place a big fabrengen b'simcha g'doila, to gather Yidden, men, women, and children to speak the words of Torah. Better yet, also to make a siyum and a mesechta, and to give tzedakah, and to accept achlotas toivos, to add in all matters of Torah and mitzvahs and in all good things. And since Chamisha Asar B'Av falls out on Friday, which then there could be shilas about making the fabrengen on Friday, etc. So the fabrengen should be on Thursday night, and should be a big fabrengen with great simcha, and then there won't be any questions. And to emphasize that it has to be a fabrengen with simcha v'tuv leivav, in accordance with the idea of Yom Tovim Yisrael Chamisha Asar B'Av, all the way up to the greatest simcha, similar to the simcha of a chasana, which is very much connected with the simcha and Yom Tov, the great Yom Tov of Tu B'Av, which the daughters of Yerushalayim, or B'nai Yisrael, as in another version, would go out and dance in the vineyards, especially based on the Minig Yisrael, that in these days after Tisha B'Av, we increase in Shidduchim and Chasanas amongst Yidden, especially that there was an interruption throughout the 3 weeks regarding this. Says the Rebbe in Seif Yud Beis, or Lahoisef, to add that the Kvis of Chamisha Asar B'Av this year on Friday is also a hint to the end of the Avodah of B'nai Yisrael. Adam Orishain was created on Friday. Now Yidden are the ones that are called Adam. So this hints to the siyum of the avodah of Adam, of the Yidden, throughout the Golus, in the 6th millennium, corresponding to the Friday, which is Erev and Achana to the Yom Shechulu Shabbos U'Menucha L'Chayei Elamim, and in a way of Matnas Chinam, that is a revelation that's Shaloi Be'erech, incomparable to our avodah, similar to that which was through by Va'eschanan El Hashem by Moshe Rabbeinu. Especially that within the 6th millennium itself, we're holding already after the Chatzois of this 1000, after the year 500, which is the midway, so that's after the Chatzois. Especially after the various different kitzim time limits and ends that had passed already, the year Tafresh Ches, the year Tafresh Samach Vav, and all the way to the announcement of Nesider Reinu that Li'alta L'Tshuva. Immediately we do Tshuva, and immediately the Gula comes, which took place in the years from Tafshin Aleph to Tafshin Gimel. And in all of these years was added so much more in the revelation of Pnimiyas HaTorah. And over the years was added more and more and more, up to spreading Chassidus to all corners of the world, even the most distant corners. And not only did the effects of Afat Samayanis Chutza reach there, but even the wellsprings of Pnimiyas HaTorah itself reached there. Says the Rebbe in Seif Yud Gimel, V'yehi Ratzon, that even before Chamisha Asar B'Av and even before the days before that, and take it from Yad Mamish, the Gula should come and we'll be able to celebrate the greatest Simcha, the Simcha that is higher than all limitations, the Simcha for the coming of the Gula Mitzvah Shleima, the Mashiach Tzidkenu, and we will bring the carbon toida for going out of the general jail of Golus with a Kal V'chomer, if every Yachid, if every individual has to bring a carbon toida for him going out of his private jail. We say, Yoidu Lashem Chazdiv and Ifloisim Levnei Yodam. We thank Hashem for His kindness and for the miracles that He does, as we say on Mincha of Friday, on Erev Shabbos. So we thank the Eibishter for all of the 4 different things mentioned in that kapitel, which are all connected to Golus, as explained in the Maimorim of the Geula of Kvoit Kedushas Moedi V'chami Admur. That means the Yud Beis Tammuz Maimorim of the Frierdiker Rebbe, which speak about these psukim and how they are a hint to the avodah of a Yidden Golus. The Rebbe says, V'yesh loimer, that with this actually started the Li'alta L'Gula. And we continue the Simcha to the following days until we celebrate the great Yom Tov of Chamisha Asar B'Av, and even before that the Yom Tov of Asiri B'Av, which will be transformed into a day of happiness, and the following days with the greatest Simcha higher than all limitations, in accordance to the Hira of Chazal, the Lehoy Yom Tovim Yisrael, that the Yidden didn't have such great Yom Tovim as Chamisha Asar B'Av, even greater than the Yom Tovim of Moedim and Simcha of the Shalosh Regalim, even though then we bring Karbonis of Simcha and HaTorah, and even greater than the Simcha of Adlayada of Purim, and the Simcha of Simchas Torah of previous years. And through all of this we continue. And similar, we continue to celebrate all of the Fabrengens and all of the happy occasions, and Adarab with a Simcha that goes higher than all limitations, because as the Pasuk says, Ozi Molei Tzchak Pinu, that's when we have the real laughter and the real happiness, including the Shleimus of the Simcha of marriage. As it says, Meheira Hashem Elokeinu Yishama Bara Yehuda V'chutzas Yerushalayim, Kol Sasam V'Kol Simcha, Kol Chasam V'Kol Kala, until the greatest Simcha, the marriage between the Eibishter and the Yidden by the Gula Mitzvah Shleima. And as said before, immediately on this very day, because I said a number of times already, we finished all of the Inyanim, and the Beis HaMikdash is standing ready and prepared above. And so to all of the Inyanim, everything is Akoil Muchal L'Suda, it's all prepared for the great Suda of L'Asad Lavoi. We have everything ready like in a closed, locked box, and we're even given the box and the key to be able to open it. Each and every Yid was given. The only thing that's being waited for is that a Yid should scream again, and demand again, and request again, and another reminder that Ad Masai. And through all of this, he's poil. He brings about the Mashiach Tzidkenu, walks right now into the shul, takes all of every single Yid together with all Yid in L'Artzeinu HaKadosh, to our holy land, to Yerushalayim Ir HaKodesh, to Har HaKodesh, to the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi. And on this very Shabbos Chazoin, we are zoichet v'sechazena ineinu to see the Eibishter coming back. Let's see you in Berachamim v'oid v'oiker, take it from Yad Mamish.